access everybody's submission, and potentially become part of the alluring history of the online community. So, put on your uniforms, get in the ring, and let's make this an absolutely delicious, hellish, cursed conlang service.
Disclaimer. I don't know, I thought it would be useful to have a disclaimer since we're talking about Scientology. This language is centered around the religion founded by L. Ron Hubbard and Proto-Austronesian. Take everything for granted in this video since it's not made up, obviously. Also, it would be nice if you didn't sue me since the things I talk about in this video are for entertainment purposes only. Again, as if you'd listen to my plea or take it seriously. Some things may also be heavily censored. Anyway, enjoy the cursed content ahead of you. Scientology. I think we all know what it is by now. If you don't, look it up on Wikipedia for more information. Basically, science fiction writer L. Ron Hubbard created his own religion. This said religion says that it all started 75 million years ago. An all-powerful dictator called Zenu is including Earth. During this time, overpopulation was beginning to become a problem. Therefore, Lord Zenu commanded that they then took these, dumping them into the spirits from the called Thetans were then sucked in by all around the world. These Thetans were then taken to a and were forced to watch a consisting of what Hubbard termed consisting mostly of and they then set the Thetans free then. Now, this is only a very brief explanation, and I didn't even compass up the most broad and important things about Scientology. But I assume that's not what we're here for, right? You're here to see my, or rather Zenu's, cursed conlang. I proudly present my submission for the CCC4, my predecessor to Proto-Austronesian, my utterly awesome source creation entitled Scientologese, the language of the Galactic Confederation. Or, as a native would have told you, or the abbreviation that is most used. The actual abbreviation that someone a part of the Galactic Confederation would more easily understand, on the other hand, is which is quite bizarre. We'll get to it, I promise. The official phonology of Scientology is completely voiceless, including both oral and manual consonants. Along with vocalization, there's also vocalized spreading, meaning if an oral consonant is vocalized and the next one is in the same vocalization class as the former, the latter becomes vocalized as well. It also doesn't matter if it's between words, sentences, or even paragraphs, the spreading still persists. Word order is VSO, adjective verbs after nouns, verbs in cases, the possessee after the possessor. I promise I'll explain that later. First I need to come up with a good definition for a kind of syllable, I guess. Let's say that a syllable is when ingression starts and egression ends, or when egression starts and ingression ends, depending on the first oral consonant in the word. This can change if we add essential stuff like cases. For example, let's take which means metal. It only has one syllable, when ingression starts and egression ends. Actual phonotactics, on the other hand, there are none. Take a look at this pronoun chart. As you see, there are... Do you hear that? That's a formality alarm, you silly goose. Also, thank you, CCC, for notifying me. Hold on, let me just find it. Here. Every word in a Scientology's dictionary must only include informal words unless it specifically says otherwise. To continue the converse about formality, please turn to page 17. If you want to make your informal word formal, follow these simple rules. Bilabial becomes alveolar, alveolar becomes velar, with the exception of becoming because doesn't exist. Velar becomes uvular, though stays the same, and becomes There cannot be uvular pharyngeal consonants in any informal word except for some irregular ones, therefore no mentions of those need to be addressed. Glottal consonant don't change, and both becomes either or. These options are true to whatever is most convenient for the speaker. That sounds a bit vague, doesn't it? Same goes for vocalization spreads further if the requirements are met. To continue the converse about formality, please turn to page 18. If you aren't happy with your formal word you've just made and are seeking help when speaking with Zenu himself, consider applying these rules to your already existing formal word to make it very formal. Okay, alveolar, velar, velar, uvula, uvula, pharyngeal, glottal persists. All manual consonants are dropped. This is because it's seen as inappropriate to snap or do something with your hands around zenu. Vocalization, blah blah blah. Anyway, the pronoun chart doesn't have anything more interesting, except for sarcastically referring to yourself using third person, which has its own pronoun. Now, adjectives and Scientologies are a bit different from other languages. Say you want the word for sharp. It's not as easy as just looking it up in a dictionary. I'll actually use sharp as an example. We first start off with a verb that's deeply connected to the adjective we want. Then we add the affix able. This able is also oblique, and I promise I will get to cases later. Then we add nominative able behave after that. I'll explain it once we get to aspect. This thing generally means sharp. It is also an irregular one because the oblique case is supposed to be the nominative case normally. I promise that I'll start explaining it in the next section. So, He's got like all the info. Jesus is like all the way up to OT level 10, maybe even 11. How do you even get access to all this? What's an oblique? Never mind. He's documented this really well. What do you think he's planning to use it for? I mean, must have been a reason for it, right? Why's my window open? The cases in Scientology are as follows. Nominative, but it can also function as marking the possessor. Oblique, but it can also function as marking the possessee/possessed. Completed translative, which is basically the S of case. Ongoing translative, ablative, dative, completed inessive, and ongoing inessive. These also have their different spellings in each formality. Might I add that they can basically connect to anything, including affixes, or the only affix, being able. This able has two versions, the nominative and oblique. We just add the corresponding case. It's really weird, so I'll just put up an explanation on screen. There's also two different similar spellings of the affix, and it seems to be a mix of preference and actual rules from what I can make out of the redacted text, so that's no use really. Oh yeah, and about that abbreviation from earlier. For scientific and linguistic reasons, the abbreviations that we use from Scientologies don't use the cases involved, while a native would have. This explains why the Scientologese version had so many of the same oral consonant. All the words started with the nominative case. To make a word plural, you simply repeat the last oral consonant, but this repeating consonant needs to be absent from manual consonants. If you want a word or sentence to be negated, it depends on which formality you're using. If you're working with informal, the word that gets negated gets inverted, then vocalization spreads if possible. Take for example, which is the informal word for raise. Raise negative would then be due to vocalization spreading, the became a formal. On the other hand, is a dentistry offer. It can only works on sentences. First, all words get lined up back to front. I should add that cases also get flipped around the main word. Then all non-negated words get inverted. Vocalization then spreads if possible. Negating sentences and words in very formal is highly classified, and I can't even give you a straight answer. Mostly because I don't have documents above OT level 13. Many argue that there is no real way to negate in very formal, which would be very cursed but more so problematic. If that's the case, there is no actual way to differentiate yes from no in both formal and very formal, since no in Scientology is just affirmative negative. The only other grammar in Scientology is aspect, being conveyed by adjective verbs once again. Aspect also applies to adjective verbs, so these adjectives that stand for aspect can also be called meta-adjective verbs. For example, if it is adjective verb or if it was adjective verb. But what if a noun's adjective verb needs multiple different meta-adjective verbs? For example, an amount of metal that is large but was small. That would translate to Metal, a small amount plural, nominative able expand, nominative able be, nominative able isolate, nominative able behave, oblique able compress. Kazuni is anything other than a sentence which is half made up of cases and affixes rather than actual words. The modal resultant is also used when the noun is surprised by what it is, was, doing, or had done. Oh yeah, and comparatives don't exist. Context as you would assume, as it is the same with Proto-Austronesian. To contrary belief, Otto Dampfwolf actually lied about everything he said in Vergleichen der Laute des Austronesiischen Wortsatzes, because Robert A. Heinlein made a bet that he couldn't. Does that sound familiar? So yeah, that's all I have to say. Enjoy the translation. Anything new?
Not really, but I might have found something that would be beneficial.
Let's hear it.
I'll start off with a question, if you will. Have you ever heard of the cursed conlang circus?
No, never.
So basically, there's this guy called Robbie Cody, Justice, the man usually called the cursed conlang circus, but that's usually before. He usually announced before the
Listen, I don't have time for irrelevant stuff like this.
Look, okay?
Sure, let's just then move on.
As you follow, it's new by the